Welcome to The Honest Media. Today is Thursday, December 14th, 2017. What a year it's been. It's our special holiday episode. Let's get to the middle shot if we can right here. We have our wonderful fireplace, of course, Craig. We've got some Christmas lighting behind us. We've been watching our InfoWars, and they are just really in the Christmas spirit. Craig, have you been noticing Merry Christmas is coming back this year, or is this just in my head?
No, I've noticed a lot of people saying it, a lot more than usual.
And you deal with the public all day at your job, so that is somebody who actually sees it, and it feels like Merry Christmas is coming back, and I'm thankful because that is, the Happy Holidays thing is just terrible. I almost didn't even do a fireplace, just a giant Merry Christmas.
I've been surprised at how many people I've heard it from actually this year, so it's a good thing.
It's like a year ago, it was one of those things that you're afraid to say because you don't know if somebody will get offended.
Under Barack Hussein's rule,
right.
It was almost illegal.
You might as well have been. I mean, you almost couldn't say it in church. It's like, Happy Holidays, praise the Lord. It's like, no, you can say it here, it's Christmas. But, so I wanted to bring that up first and foremost because that's, it's beautiful time of year. We've actually got a decent people in Washington representing us. We don't have to feel afraid to say those two little words, Merry Christmas, anymore.
Seems like it. That's great.
So now we've got a lot to talk about today. One particular thing I want to do is break down the Roy Moore Senate election. Of course, Moore lost in it's been called an upset. It was incredibly close, especially by Alabama standards. I mean, we're talking less than a point between the two, obviously, if you've been paying attention. But what a lot of people aren't doing is kind of a post-mortem on what really happened and what led to the defeat. And that's something that we're going to do today. And we're going to try to be as unbiased as possible and just give you an honest opinion of what happened, why a Republican lost in one of the reddest states in the Union. As we go forward, we've got some great news on the Make America Great Again front. Of course, taxes are on the way. President Trump says he'll have them by Christmas. And not only that, he says we will have a refund by February. So it's looking like that's coming down the pike. We've also got some international news that I think is going to blow a lot of people away coming up in this segment. But as I said, we're going to start by talking about what's going on with Roy Moore. We're going to do a little post-mortem here with the election. So, Craig, a lot of people have termed this as a referendum on President Trump.
That'd be totally false.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we even kind of pointed this out numerous times during the election, because we didn't even cover it. And numerous times I sat here at this desk and I'm like, why do we care about Alabama? This is so weird. We care about Alabama. It's bizarre. And really what it was is it was a liberal trick to trick us into doing that.
Yeah.
They got us hyper-focused on this state that previously nobody has ever cared about it. Mm-hmm. And what they did is they spent something I've heard, I don't have it in front of me, but $25 million in that state.
Oh, minimum, probably hundreds.
And there's, it's Obama campaigners doing it. It's, Soros had money in there. The advertisements, people would be watching, Fox News, and they would be Roy Moore. It would be his Jones commercials. It's just insane.
Yeah, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to get one Democrat in office.
Yeah.
Probably.
So what they did is they whipped up conservatives. They got us watching this race where Moore is the candidate. Mm-hmm. And again, they have framed Moore as the referendum on Trump candidate. So when you actually look at what Roy Moore ran on, though, it doesn't sound very Trumpian.
Yeah.
So just a couple examples. Economy, Roy Moore was a big fan of the flat tax. Trump, of course, is the first Republican in modern history to endorse and get passed through Congress, I mean, we're just a couple days away, a progressive tax system. That is something that blew a lot of people away, and a lot of people still don't know about it because of all the fake news that's come out about taxes.
Yeah.
But a Republican president wants a progressive tax system, and of course, Roy Moore, flat tax, that is everybody pays 20% or whatever. Mm-hmm. And some people say that's more fair because it's not right. Whether you're rich or poor, you shouldn't have to pay more or less. Trump says he is rich. He doesn't. If he thinks he should have to pay more, he's okay with that, so he does. And that's what he passes, or that's what he proposes. The Constitution, now one thing Roy Moore that I really appreciate, he said that activist judges should be impeached. But then he also goes and says things that makes him very difficult to swallow for most of the country, like, maybe the amendments after 10 don't count. He said that, Craig. I mean, it's like, I get that it was just an offhand remark, but it's like, yeah, I mean, you're in America, dude. Like, suffrage was in there.
He just wants to stick with the original ones.
just the first 10.
Yeah, the first 10.
Go way back. It's just not smart to say stuff like that. He said when it comes to immigration, he gave this half-throated endorsement of the wall. This all comes off his website, by the way. This isn't me coming up with random quotes. He said, wrong one. If a wall is our only option, then we should build it immediately. It's like, well, okay, that's like the least passionate endorsement of build the wall I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
That's a far cry from build the wall. It's like, well, if we got to, okay.
Well, we have to, so.
Yeah, we need that wall. And so then he goes to military. I'm sorry, I missed one. Healthcare here. Now, okay, Roy Moore says he is a free market guy. But it says his health care plan is businesses should receive tax credits for employee health care coverage. Trump never talked about that is the government interfering with the marketplace. That's typically an anti-Republican position. Am I right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Then you've got military. And now this is something that's it's so antiquated by today's standards. Maybe a lot of people still think this, but it's the election. You've got to win an election, right? So he says about the military, homosexuality should be against military policy, as was the law prior to Bill Clinton. I mean, we are not only we're past don't ask, don't tell. Mm-hmm. We are into who cares.
Yeah, well, this guy's just old school as it gets, apparently.
I guess, but I mean...
First 10 Amendment's old school.
Yeah, right? Occasionally you just have to, where's the wind blowing today?
Yes.
I mean, I get principles, I do, but it's like election, you got to win elections too.
Yeah.
And then family. He has a section on his website for his policy papers just titled Family. What is the government going to do about my family? But this is what he says the government will do about my family. And now I want to get this out there because I'm going to read it and we're going to have a lot of people. I love traditional family values. That is what made America great. However, I don't think the government can do anything to make traditional family values come back. The government is powerless. The government is a reflection of our values. It's not the values. Mm-hmm. So Roy Moore says, though, a strong family based on marriage between one man and one woman is and should remain our only guide and model. I oppose abortion, same-sex marriage, civil unions, and all other threats to traditional family order. Now compare and contrast that to President Trump, who held up the LGBT flag on a podium in front of 50,000 people. He at the RNC said that we will defend the LGBT population from these Muslim hordes who want to throw them off buildings. You've got Trump. You have Republicans now know how to win. Copy Trump to the letter. And instead they go and run this creepy conservative playbook from the 50s, and what do you know? It backfires.
Well, yeah, I can't say I don't like some of his ideas.
I know, that's the thing. They're not terrible ideas, but you have to realize what is acceptable in the Overton window in 2017. We've got to take a moment off. You're watching The Honest Media. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm still Tom Pappert, joined, of course, by Craig Chrysler. We've got some new information about U.S. Retail numbers, jobless claims, that type of thing that I want to get out because I noticed this information really doesn't get out, and so it's an opportunity to actually hear about how Trump is making our country great again. So this comes to us from Reuters. U.S. retail sales surge, weekly jobless claims fall again. And Craig, if you remember, last week we reported the jobless claims actually fell last week, too. This is week after week. They are going down. More and more people are getting off the welfare rolls and onto the payrolls.
That's what it seems like.
Either that or they're just not getting welfare anymore.
Yeah.
How are they eating?
Yeah.
People got to, get their food somehow.
Just not signing up or they got a job, actually.
And so that is very, that's one of the first times in our nation's history, really. This is a very unique period for people to actually be getting off welfare. That's not how it works.
Yeah, usually more and more get on. So
I mean, you and I know, because we understand how the machinations work. Welfare is designed not to lift people out of poverty, but entrap them in poverty. And so to all these people out there who are really overcoming this institutional hurdle of welfare, like, that is impressive. Good for them. That's not easy. Once you become dependent on that, it's hard to get off.
it is, yes.
I mean, free money from the government. Just ask Wall Street. It's like crack cocaine to them.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it is on the local level too. But as we go on, now apparently these people they have income, because Americans are now spending more as the holiday seasons continue than we have in previous years. Which a lot of the left right now is sitting there saying, "Oh, what a waste of money! Only the bourgeoisie American capitalist swine would go out and buy Christmas trees at Christmas."
Yeah, if this would have happened under Obama, it would have been a giant party. But
Right.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Now we can't talk about it. I mean, this is I got this from the Wall Street Journal, and it was buried behind a paywall. Do we have that up on screen? I wonder, because it's literally, and I hope it's still buried, because it was on my computer. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, congratulations, you have a way in over here." But so, I mean, they bury it. You can't, and you're not seeing this information anywhere else. It was on Drudge, even buried on Drudge, and then Drudge links to an article that you can't read without a subscription. I mean, it's nuts. But so Americans are spending more this holiday season as it goes along. We are, of course, in the middle of November. We've got just really a short chunk of time before.
CNN told us this was going to be the end of the world when Trump was elected.
Yeah,
so,
don't you remember that? The economy was going to crash. The U.S. dollar would collapse. China would invade. Everything was
Nuclear war.
nuclear devastation. That's right. They said he would get us into a nuclear war. Remember the
Yeah, and
hypocrisy there?
instead we have lowest unemployment and best stuff ever happening.
And I mean, we can go back to that for a second, because it was something like 40-some years. There we go.
Since the 70s.
Yeah, since basically Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society got started. I mean, it's insane how amazing this. And a lot of people say, "Well, Trump didn't do that." Well, who did?
Yeah.
Who did?
Wasn't Obama.
Did Obama really plan? Is he that big of a mastermind where he planned this massive economic recovery to start the day he left office?
Yeah.
I mean, if he's that good, we should have made him emperor
He
for
just
life.
wanted to look like a loser for 8 years and then
get all the credit as soon as he left. But okay, so here it is. This is from what we were talking about a minute ago, the weekly jobless claims falling. The economic outlook was bolstered by other data Thursday that showed the number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits dropping to a near 44.5-year low. 44.5 years. That's our combined age almost. That's nuts.
Yeah,
It's
that's
nuts.
amazing.
And a lot of people said it was impossible. I believed it was impossible before Trump, and that, I guess that's the country's Christmas present is we can hope again.
Yeah, people have jobs again.
People have jobs. People can
Imagine
actually
that.
look forward to the future without the cringe.
Tends to happen when you stop massive waves of illegals coming in, taking your jobs.
Isn't that amazing?
Citizens start getting jobs again.
And I mean, that is something else that has
Imagine
been
that, huh?
underreported all year long. It has slowed to a trickle where it was a waterfall before, these people crossing the border. Now, something else interesting. So people are working, people have money to go spend frivolously at the mall. People have money to travel for the first time in who knows how long. We've got another report that comes out. It's from Reuters. Record number of Americans to travel during Christmas holiday, and that is from AAA. I think they would know.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, this is something that kind of was already, after 9/11, that's when it came to a screeching halt, because nobody wants to fly.
Yeah.
I mean, understandably. But the thing is, it never really, it recovered.
Yeah.
And then we had the Great Recession, and then we had, 8 years of Obama, which really was the Great Recession, those 8 years. And then, of course, now all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait a minute, we can fly again. We can travel. I can afford that ticket.
Can actually go places and do things again now that you have a job.
And this kind of, now that you have a job, right? Now they can work. Now they're off welfare. It's amazing what you can get done with a little extra money every month.
It is.
Or just any.
Yeah, any money, yeah.
But so, and I find this interesting. 90.7 travel, though, is going to happen on U.S. roadways. I mean, we're going, it's, on one hand, I wouldn't want to be driving in it. but it's kind of amazing. The U.S. roadways this holiday season are going to look like we're China for a brief moment.
Yeah, even while gas is up, which is a rare thing for a holiday season. If the gas prices are high, people tend to
stay home. But again, so what is that an indication of? That means people have more money. That means that they are able to say, you know what, I can afford for my road trip to drive halfway across the country. It's going to cost me an extra $200 to fill up my tank. But forget it, I got a bonus this year.
Got money
or I got a
falling
job.
out the wazoo. Yeah.
Exactly. Coming out of their eyes, their nose, they're wherever. Yeah. Money coming from wherever. So that is some exciting news, and I would just like to point out that's before taxes. I mean, we have this kind of positive economic outlook. They're going to get taxes probably, it could happen, I mean, in the next few days.
We haven't even got to the good stuff yet.
I know.
As far as Trump's concerned.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
We have so much more to go. He's really only kept a few major accomplished. I don't want to say kept. He's only accomplished because he hasn't broken any promises. He just hasn't accomplished them yet. Only accomplished a few of his major things. You know, you can look at the overall legislation and they've passed like 89 bills. It's a lot. But that is just one of the major things. Imagine what's going to happen when we get Obamacare gone, when we get the wall built. Imagine what's going to happen to this economy. You know,
hopefully they're able to get rid of that stupid tax, healthcare tax penalty. So.
Well, what's exciting is the individual mandate. We're going to get to this in the next segment, and I think we might take off early because I really want to dive into this tax thing because they are. They're getting rid. Even they come together, then they got to fight it out, then they send it to the president. They are getting rid of the individual mandate. Wow. And that is something that a round of applause just went off around the world when I said that, because that is the worst part of Obamacare, that a healthy person like you, a gym junkie who lifts weights and knows the ins and outs of his own body like you have to have health insurance. You're the pinnacle of health. And but if you don't have health insurance, then you owe Uncle Sam some money.
Like $3,000.
Totally insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody just on a sheer physical health who is healthier than this guy, and he gets penalized from it. Makes no sense.
Except for the Kansas allergies, I'm good.
Except for the allergies in this global climate warming change that we've got now. Just allergies go on and on. Aside from that, healthy man. But that's the vaccines. We got to take a moment off. We'll be back after this message. These messages. You're watching The Honest Media.
Christmas is here. Too much food and too much wine.
Welcome back to The Honest Media. As we talked about in the last segment, we have some new details on what the combined House and Senate GOP tax bill looks like now. And it is almost all good news. There's a couple things that as I was reading, I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, now wait a minute. But, it's whatever. You still got the neocons in office. We haven't purged them yet. Next year's tax bill, that's going to be a good one. But, so Craig, this is exciting because a lot of people said this wouldn't even happen. They said there's no way you're going to get tax cuts.
Yep.
We can't ever do it.
Got to keep raising them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or just keep raising them because all of a sudden the left really started caring about the deficit and the debt.
Yeah.
They're really worried that according to their analysts, basically, this tax bill is going to raise the debt. So it's like...
Yeah, while Obama was in office, then he raised the national debt, $40 trillion?
He doubled it.
Nobody cared.
Well, he doubled it. He literally, it took 200 some odd years of American history to get it to where it was at the end of Bush's administration.
He doubled it in his first term.
And he doubled it in his first term.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, it's comical.
None of them cared.
They didn't. You had to do it. Because if you don't, here's the list of things you hate. You hate the troops. You hate schools. You hate welfare. You hate government. You hate Washington memorials. If you don't raise taxes, you hate America, basically.
That's right, yes.
That's what they said for 8 years.
When nothing's more American than hating taxes.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, we started this country because we didn't want to pay a tax on tea. Let's be honest here. Let's be real. This is a country built on tax revolts.
Yes.
So this is the good way to get a good tax revolt. You do it in Congress and not with a bayonet. So now it's very interesting. They say this is going to raise 1.5 trillion in the debt. I don't buy it. I don't think a lot of people buy it. And here's why. Because we're going to get into the numbers. And if this passes as we've got it here, no way. It's not going to happen because it's going to unlock the American potential. It's going to unlock the potential of people everywhere out there to start a business and really undo what made this country great in the first place. So to start, the corporate tax rate will be down to 21%. Competitive on the world stage. I mean, I think the lowest is in the teens, but ours was previously 35. It's insanely
outrageous,
high. It's insane. And these are corporations. These are soulless, mind-sucking corporations. They're not going to come to America because they love America. No, they're going to go wherever they can make the most money. They don't. The most they have is a brand. But a lot of these corporations, nobody knows their name until they go bankrupt and need a bailout, right?
Yeah.
So now, we're going to keep going here. That's 1 percentage point. This is their compromise. That's 1 percentage point higher than the House proposed. That's their compromise. I love it. The House got everything they wanted, basically, and the Senate was told to shove it. And again, that was 35% is the current rate. We can go on to talk about, here we go, the alternative minimum tax is going to be made into if you pay it, if you know it, you know exactly why this is important, but it's going to be made to be how it was supposed to be used, not as a loophole, basically, for rich folks. And it will expand a $10,000 cap for state and local property taxes. Now, this is something that a lot of people in blue states, and the original House bill was genius, Craig, because I don't know if you noticed, but they snuck all kinds of things in there that all they were is negotiation points. Like the SALT, you remember the SALT, where state and local taxes deductions? Those are going to be reintroduced to this bill in part. And what that is it allows blue states to stiff the federal government because you get to deduct your state taxes from your federal taxes. So California, where the state taxes are insanely high, they're not paying any federal taxes out there because they paid it all to the state. And then it's you and me here in Kansas, which is the high tax point on the prairie, but in the global scheme of things, we're doing pretty good. It's you and me who are paying the taxes. It's not fair. It's not right. It makes no sense. It was done by liberals when they had control of Congress, and it's going to be fixed. And thank goodness for that. As we mentioned earlier in this episode, the individual mandate, something that the Senate had in their bill, the House did not have in theirs, repealed. It's going to be gone. In a tax bill. You remember the Supreme Court years ago? Obama, it's not a tax. It's not a tax. Let me be clear. It is not a tax. The Supreme Court came and said it's only okay because it is a tax. And so now, all these years later, they sat there, nana boo-boo conservatives, we win on this, and here we are, it's like, it's a tax. We can repeal that if we want. It's amazing the way that everything the left does manages to come full circle and give them a swift kick in the butt. But we can.
Well, a lot of people are going to be happy about that. I know that.
Oh, that is a big thing that everybody is going to feel, especially young people who, as we mentioned in the last segment, are the most affected. An 18-year-old graduating from college, he's smart if he's graduating from high school, probably doesn't need health care. It's just the way it is.
If you're in your early 20s, you don't need to be paying $250 a month for health care.
And
ridiculous.
And we can get into that for just a moment here, because let's talk, before we continue on taxes, because there's more good information, but how nuts was that entire system? Obamacare, the entire thought process is Craig, healthy, young man at the time when Obamacare passed, mid-20s, really, right? Right around there, roughly. And so he was the ideal person that would be buying health care that would then subsidize all the sickly old people. That's what they thought. But the thing is, he has no incentive to buy health care. You have or health insurance.
And I looked it up, it was like something crazy, like $500 a month or something.
And that's for you. Now, our viewers out there, many of you, we know you're baby boomers, maybe in that age range, a little younger, a little older. We know what you're paying. We know you're paying $1,500 a month, $1,400 a month. I mean, we're talking as much as people pay for their mortgage. It is. It's totally, and it's because, lo and behold, people like Craig have a calculator app on their phone, and they're sitting there, now wait a minute, 500 times 12, or I can do the $3,000 penalty. I'll save money and do the penalty.
Exactly.
So Obamacare was doomed from the start. There was no way young, healthy people were going to subsidize the old people, because young people don't need insurance. It's an old person's game. Now, if you can afford it, more power to you. If you want to be smart, if you're going to have a family, get insurance. But Come on.
Well, hopefully they can open up the state lines for.
Well, and that, of course, has been done with an executive order.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to get to the point, we're going to come into next year, where basically 60% of Obamacare is already gone. And all they've got to do, all those god-awful Republicans have to do, is just finish the job that Trump started, and they started on accident. And it was all Rand Paul. Rand Paul, kudos to Rand Paul. This was his idea. But so they are, all they've got to do is have half a backbone for 5 minutes, and they can finish repealing Obamacare.
Yeah.
It'll be great. We've got to take a moment off. We've got some more information about tax cuts. Trump is promising, or at least suggesting, this is going to happen very soon, and we're all going to be feeling the relief come April, come tax day. And we've got some information to support how quickly this is happening that's actually related to Vice President Pence. You're watching The Honest Media. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Honest Media. We're still discussing the GOP tax plan in this segment. Reuters let me down, and you wouldn't believe who I had to go to, but I knew I could find it on the Clinton News Network, CNN. So let's pull that up. These are the rest of the information that I was hunting down before, and it was buried in that article, but CNN actually gave us a nice bulleted list that we can use. So, Craig, tell me if this sounds good. The top individual tax rate, this is for, as Bernie would say, the millionaires and the billionaires, is only 37% now. That is good compared to where it was.
Yeah, still should be lower, but
I agree. It should be zero.
yeah.
We're making progress. It's going to take a while. You got to whittle it down. That was actually, this is what happens when you get a bunch of fiscally conservative Republicans in a room together. The House originally proposed 36.9. The Senate originally proposed 38.5. So they're like, you want 40, I want 38. Let's just break even at 37.
Yeah, meet in the middle.
They just go lower. I like that's good legislation.
And what was it before?
Well, it is, from my understanding now, with all the hidden taxes and fees and the loopholes, but it's somewhere in the 50% range, is my understanding.
If you're really rich, like...
exactly. Then you get the loopholes, and it's probably around 10.
A lot of them end up paying nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like
Warren Buffett.
They have all their different methods to hide their money, and there is a legitimate grievance to be had. Yes. I wish I could pay nothing.
Yes,
but there is a legitimate grievance to be had.
You can, but some guys with guns, some guys with guns might show up at your house,
or at the very least, they'll start garnishing my pay. It won't go well for me. Now Warren, on the other hand, up in Nebraska, he can do whatever he wants. But going on, corporate alternative minimum tax, which the Senate at the last minute, they listened to the cucks and they put it back in after it was taken out. They're taking it back out.
Good.
So it's like, this is how legislation works. Isn't it goofy in this country? The mortgage interest actually, let's talk. I know we talked about that before. The mortgage interest deduction threshold, which again, it was one of those things they specifically took out to make the Democrats. That's the art of the deal. To make the Democrats go, no, we have to have that, and they're going to ignore the individual mandate. They're going to ignore all this stuff, and so they're going to hyper focus on this stupid little thing. And then Republicans, we didn't even want it really to begin with. So they're like, yeah, fine, take it. So it's brilliant. It's the art of the deal, and they fall for it every single time. It's amazing. That book was written in 1987. It does the job over and over and over again. The rate for pass-through income, which it sounds like something that only rich folk are going to worry about. It's like when you have an LLC that mostly just passes through money. But I found out there's a lot of retirees and a lot of people who own like rental properties that actually this does affect them, and they are going to make the rates. It's kind of a little bit complicated, but they will pay it through the individual side. It will be determined by a 20% deduction, which is actually 3% lower. So it's one of those nuts and bolts things. If you care about it, you know what that means. The estate tax, this is what makes me mad. I hate the death tax. It's not the estate tax, it's the death tax.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's terrible. It's un-American.
It's ridiculous.
It's socialism. It's saying every generation you all have to start on even footing. It's like, no, that's not how the world works. Ask Queen Elizabeth. That's not how the world works. So the estate tax, they are keeping the estate tax in there, but they are doubling the exemption. And really, I need to have a tax expert on to explain what that means, because I don't get it.
Yeah.
But from my understanding is that means that money that is specifically gifted in a will or something like that that gets to be exempted now. But I'm like, what about all the other types of ways that it happens? So, what about property? What about a life insurance policy? They're not. My questions aren't answered, and I'm very disappointed.
The tax law book's only like 50 feet tall. So.
Yeah. Why don't I just open it to page 9072 and take a look?
That's ridiculous.
It really is. So again, those are the nuts and bolts that we're excited about, especially that the fact that the highest tax now is going to be basically what I'm paying. For those playing at home, I'm going to be paying very little taxes. TV is not a high-paying business. I'll be one of those guys who's barely paying anything. It's going to be great. Now, we talked about, Craig, this is this story. We talked about the proof that this really is happening, because, this has happened before. They get us all excited and on the edge of our seats, and then John McCain does his thing. The thing that he does, the being a terrible person one.
Yes.
But this time, Pence actually canceled or delayed a Middle East trip in case he had to show up for the tie-breaking Senate vote.
Oh, nice.
That's a good indication.
In case John McCain came out the woodwork.
In case McCain, which he's in the hospital right now. We got to be a little bit tender.
Is he back in?
He had some difficulty, which you and me were like, how is he getting chemo and radiation and just walking around? I've seen people with that. They're like dead on their feet.
Yeah.
But so it's catching up to him, it sounds like. Which, John, if you're listening, retire and be with your grandkids. You're not doing anybody any favors.
No.
But so that is this is the timeline. Pence said he was going to leave Saturday. That's the day after tomorrow. If you're watching this on Thursday, if you're watching this Saturday night, Pence should be on a plane getting ready to head toward the Middle East right now. And instead, he's here, he's at home, he's waiting for a call from God knows who, to tell them to hurry up and get down to the Senate and say whatever, do their stupid parliamentary politics.
That's good.
It is.
You don't hear a lot from Pence, and that's usually a good thing.
And when you do hear something from Pence, it's almost always fake news about how he hates the president and was going to be installed as the shadow president.
Yeah, that was some
blah, blah, blah.
stuff.
Now, the next thing about taxes is another indication this is coming soon. Trump himself said that you're going to have this he said first, you're going to have it by Christmas. It will be on my desk. Second, he said money will be in your pockets by February. This comes at us from Bloomberg, and this is thrilling. There's one more that I want to get to, and that is just telling us when it's going to happen. But there's a lot of fake news about this tax bill, Craig. Now, have you? I understand if you haven't, because you take this stuff on faith. Because how many times do you have to be proven right about Trump before you trust him, right?
Yeah.
So, but have you gone online and gone to one of those calculators and punched in how much you earn every year and all your deductions and seen how much you'll save?
No, I haven't. Not recently, no.
It's incredibly fun because I love looking at that number.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my good Lord. Now this is, we've got the article twice, but the Breitbart headline is ideal. It's perfect. And we've also got it from The Hill, but the Breitbart headline is Bernie Marcus, average family with children will save $2,000 to $3,000 from GOP tax cut bill.
Got to be happy about that.
If you're a middle-class family, a real middle-class family in Wichita, Kansas, earning $50,000 a year with both spouses working, that's the difference between a family vacation and not. That's the difference between a new car and driving the beater. That is insane.
That's the difference between eating a steak and McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is night and day. That is bologna versus, steak and eggs. That is night and day difference. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's good.
And of course, the way that this is structured, and it's going to actually, nobody talks about this, and we can because, we don't have censors, really, besides the FCC, God forbid. But, the demographic decline in this country, where people who are historically American are not having children, the more children you have, the more you save. Making America great again 50 years down the line. Trump's got some vision here. So we've got to take another moment off. When we come back, we're going to talk about something from the Federal Reserve about taxes. Then we've got some information abroad. We're going to go some international news, tell you about the insanity happening around the world. We'll be right back. You're watching The Honest Media. welcome back to the Honest Media. You know, we have been hearing about something that has been called Russiagate, it's been called the Russia conspiracy, it's been called a dozen things, the collusion, whatever you want to call it. Trump has been persecuted since well before his first day in office. And as we've been talking about all the wonderful things he does for our country and has been doing, I think it's important we talk about the new news. A lot of people know about this. It's not going to be breaking to you more than likely, but I want to get our perspective out on it, because an FBI agent, a high-level FBI agent associated now with Robert Mueller's case, he discussed an insurance policy against Trump. And Craig, I want to mention, you can tell me, because I know you're like me, we don't go to the mainstream very often, so our version of the news is different. But now, how do you see this described? Because 9 out of 10 times, I see people complaining about, well, everybody uses bad language. Just because he doesn't support the president doesn't mean he can't investigate him. You know, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. That's what I hear. And that is a load of crap. I mean, it's not, because that's not what is in these texts. Yes, he obviously doesn't like the president. That's not what we're up in arms about. Because what is in these texts?
He more than doesn't like the president from the text I was hearing him read on the Senate floor this morning.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
He was actively working against the future president of the United States.
And his family and everybody else.
As a member of the FBI. That's like a police officer in Wichita purposely planting drugs on a mayoral candidate. That is the equivalent of what we are seeing here.
He said something like Hillary Clinton should have got 100 million votes and Trump 0.
Well, he said, now this is just one text message from this guy to his mistress, by the way. That's the kind of person we're dealing with here, a Weinstein wannabe. So he says, I want to believe in the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. They believe Andy is the deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, from the previous administration. And so they're saying, no way he can get elected. Then this guy says, I'm afraid we can't take that risk. We can't risk Trump getting elected, is what this guy has to say. And he goes on, it's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. What is he talking about? That is what conservatives want to know. We don't care that he used the S word. We don't care that he said blank Trump. No, nobody cares about that. I don't care. I don't care if you say it about, I mean, I think you shouldn't. That's my personal belief. But nobody cares. It's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about the fact that we have a member of a governmental agency, a policing arm of the government, using his privilege, his power, his position to silence the opposition. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
What does that sound like to you?
Sounds like they were up to something no good, that's for sure.
I mean, and so people are saying, this guy is perfectly qualified, he's non-partial. That's such a lie.
Yeah,
and then now the new thing is, well, okay, so what if he's a Democrat? That doesn't mean he can't do his job. Now imagine this was happening about Hillary. Imagine you had, Comey. Imagine you had Comey texts being sent and leaked that are like, I hate that Hildebeest. We have to make sure the insurance policy works. We can't have another Clinton administration. That would be a scandal.
Oh yeah, huge.
It would be all over.
Huge.
But with this, the only people reporting on it are InfoWars, yours truly, Breitbart. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, and
nobody
if you're
cares.
watching the Senate hearings.
If you're watching the Senate hearings, which are probably getting great ratings about now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane because you've got Trey Gowdy is up there reading this stuff live on the Senate, and I mean, it is gripping. I mean, we thought that this was happening. You remember Steve Pieczenik? End of last year, November of last year, Steve Pieczenik released the video saying there are rogue agents in the FBI who are trying to undermine our country. They're going to have a coup and steal this election. That was on our TV station. That was Steve Pieczenik. It's on our YouTube channel. You can go watch it right now, and you've got me and InfoWars' Dan Lyman sitting there responding to it.
Yeah.
And now we have the proof. A little over a year later, the proof is right here. So I just think, and this
makes you wonder what they're up to.
Exactly.
An assassination plot?
Well,
perhaps?
a lot of people think this is the Russian dossier. You remember that? The pee pee poo poo dossier. I mean, because How? I just don't get it. Because allegedly they paid millions of dollars for this. I mean, just imagine if Trump had employed the same tactics against the Clintons. Imagine if he had paid millions of dollars to get a recording of Bill saying, yeah, you know, I'm not usually into men, but I might let you do that to me later. Imagine. We need to. Republicans need to start using these dirty tricks.
Yes,
because if you're going to use them against Roy Moore, you might as well use them against these sick freaks who are plotting to undermine democracy.
Just bug the Lolita Express, we'd have everything we
needed. We wouldn't even, we could get all the globalists at once. And by the way, I would just like to point out, I can't say the name. My guy in my ear, Putin, he hasn't told me how to say it. But the guy, the FBI agent, his name is Peter Strzok. Strzok. That sounds Russian. I smell collusion. Just pointing that out.
Yes.
Had to point it out. Now, related, tell me you couldn't see this one coming. Mueller, FBI, face crisis in public confidence.
Oh, wow.
Who could have possibly seen this coming? This guy who should have recused himself day one is because of his the uranium one. He's compromised, basically.
Big time.
And lo and behold, he faces a crisis. I mean, this is not a laughing matter. This is not Republicans who are upset with him. This is, let me see if I can get the number here, 54% of voters say Special Counsel Robert Mueller has conflicts of interest.
Well, duh.
Yeah, right? And now, for those playing at home, when you're doing this, not even a proven conflict of interest, but the mere appearance of impropriety that is cause to step down.
Yeah.
So you don't have to prove you have a conflict of interest. You have to appear to have a conflict of interest. And the reason why it's that way is because it's supposed to make you and me, John C. Everyman of the USA, that's supposed to make us have faith in our judicial system.
Yeah.
And instead, they totally ignore it. So there's another number in here I wanted to get. Let me see if I can dig it out. I should have made notes like I typically do. There we go. I lost it again. But somewhere in the 62% of voters believe that he should resign. That's somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, this guy was in bed with the Clintons for years, and
you know, there are some theories. I'd love to have somebody on the show to talk about them, but I just want to point out that you knew at the beginning that this guy was sick, bad news, because you had Paul Ryan and all the leftists, Nancy Pelosi, everybody agreed he was the perfect guy for the job.
Yeah.
You knew they were planning something.
Isn't everybody working for him? He hired a Democrat.
Well, I mean, the guy
Besides
we were
one
talking about
person,
a second ago, he's working on Mueller's team.
Yeah.
The guy who has an insurance policy against Trump. Unbelievable. This is our union. And no wonder we had to send Trump in there to fix it. We got to take a moment off. You're watching The Honest Media. When we come back, we've got a lot of news to get to and not a lot of time to get to it. We're going to tell you about what crazy things are happening abroad and a vote that's going to be happening at the FCC of all the places later this week. In fact, possibly as soon as today. We'll be right back. You're watching The Honest Media. Welcome back to The Honest Media. We have some breaking news that's actually happened during our live broadcast of Facebook here between the 11:30 to 12:30 hour. The FCC voted to repeal its net neutrality rules in a sweeping act of deregulation. That's the headline from none other than Jeff Bezos' Washington Post. And Craig, I could not be happier to report this live on Facebook and on Newsmax and right here on Cozy and everywhere else, because that is the best thing I've heard in quite a while. That is some good news.
Yeah, some complicated stuff, but it is very good.
And now we can break it down, because I am a person who I originally thought net neutrality was going to be good. But here's the deal. There's a bait and switch, as there so often is.
Yes.
Because it's Congress, and because it's the FCC, and because it's the government. So net neutrality came out initially, and it was to put all ISPs on even legal footing. It was some regulation. I was like, I'm not sure, but they won me over because they made it make sense. But then there was a little bit of a bait and switch. They added some stuff to it. They deleted some stuff. And all of a sudden, President Obama got behind it. Time Warner got behind it. Disney got behind it. Every major technology technology company, Google, Amazon, Facebook, all of them got behind it. The major ISPs got behind it. The people who were being regulated supported the regulations. That's always a red flag.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big red flag. So it basically, all it was going to do is protect them. They were going to use it to make sure that small ISPs could never get started, that you were going to have the wonderful choice we have now of Time Warner, Cox Cable, or AT&T for the entire country. That was going to be the future of this. That is what this would have ended with.
Protection for the big boys is all it was.
And here's the other thing. It did nothing to keep the internet actually free. How about conservatives who are routinely censored, banned, deleted, you name it, from social media? Did nothing for that. It was only ISPs. So it wasn't net neutrality. It wasn't doing something like enforcing the Bill of Rights on the internet. No. This was nothing but big government cronyism to help out their friends in the broadcast and the broadband industries. And it's sick. The fact that these people can get into our government, and then the fact that you've got Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else, there's going to be a liberal tier ocean for the next 4 hours.
Yep.
Till they forget about it and go on to the next one.
He's probably going to be so sad he's just going to shut Facebook down for a day.
Oh, we'll all just have to suffer in silence, won't we?
know,
Oh, what will I do without Farmville?
I know, yeah.
But so it's some extremely exciting news, and a lot of people are saying, but your Netflix bill is going to go up. Well, you know what? My Netflix bill going up $1 is a small price to pay for an internet that is free and is not going to be controlled by a crony capitalist fascist oligarchy combined of the FCC under Democrats and the global media complex that now controls the internet.
And all the degenerates might have to pay for their porn now instead of
I'm
watching
so
it free.
sorry.
Yes.
That's the thing. You know that's not even true. You know, because porn, they will always make money with ads on porn.
Yes.
It's porn. It's like 89% of the. I mean, it is porn. So, and the same with Netflix. Netflix doesn't make money. Fun fact, Netflix is hemorrhaging money. They don't care. They're making more original programs, which are what is causing them to hemorrhage money. And they say that it's getting investors. It's making their stock price go up. They don't care about losing money. If they raise their prices because of this, it's because they wanted to, not because they had to. It's because they wanted an excuse, and this gave it to them. So now I've got some interesting news from my buddy abroad. I almost got the music pulled up again, but net neutrality was so excited. My boss, President Vladimir Putin, recently praised President Trump. He says that the United States was gripped by a fabricated spy mania.
Yes, well, it was.
It's amazing how this guy who barely speaks English understands what's happening this well.
Well, he seems to understand what's happening better in the world than quite a bit of anybody for quite a while now. So.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
And, you know, we've talked about Russia enough on this show, but I wanted to get that out there. That, I mean, and by the way, this article, the whole point of this article is Putin says, no, I'm not going to get caught up in an arms race. We're not going to have Cold War Part 2. We're not doing this. That's basically what Putin is saying.
All the
He's
Democrats are upset, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure they're either one, ignoring it, or two, crying into their pillows.
Yeah, they
One of the
wanted to
two.
get nucleared.
Now, I want to talk about, because we've talked about it earlier in the show, and of course, SCOTUS recently passed the travel ban. It's enforced, mostly, 98% or whatever. You know, art of the deal, always put something on the table you can walk away from. This is what's happening in the rest of the world, though, and extreme vetting. You know, we have to have that. This is why. Migrants buying ready-made fake cover stories to fool authorities and approving asylum claims. For €5,000, you can buy a cover story where they will probably hand you an identity that says you're a 14-year-old and that you have come from a war-torn country, and your mom gave you a knapsack and said, "Go to Europe, Johnny, go to Europe." And that is the cover story, and so that's what's happening in the rest of the world. Last episode, Craig, you remember this? You remember the Sweden blocks? Or all throughout Europe? So Sweden now is condemning his country's growing anti-Semitism problem. Now, call me crazy. I have a feeling these aren't blonde-haired, blue-eyed Swedes running around with SS uniforms on.
Yeah.
I have a feeling these are our refugee friends from the Middle East who historically are not good friends of the Jews.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm just pulling that out of somewhere. Now, this is another fun one. You remember this from last week.
Oh, yeah.
are diversity barriers.
They're diversity barriers.
Because the truck of peace just keeps on driving through malls full of innocent people. And so what they're doing in Europe is coming up with these giant, tacky cement barriers. Can you imagine going to Town West and you see one of these things? It's ridiculous. So basically, let's see, a German TV show proved that they are just terrible wastes of money, space, and visual aesthetic strain on your eyes because they got a truck of peace. And they just started driving it through these things.
Oh, really?
Like, it moved it completely off to the side. Like, I mean, we're talking like, you know, like this microphone. That's how easy it was. I mean, the truck. It's a truck.
Yeah.
Basically, they are trying to, instead of fixing the radical Islam problem, they're just, you know, coming up with these stopgaps that aren't even going to work once.
Yeah, because then they said they're just going to put them all on foot anyway to stab people.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they, and then it happened, right?
Yeah.
We talked about that last week. They said that happened in New York because that's what they say. No trucks. Well, you know what? We'll just go stab people and shoot people and do whatever we can.
Yep.
Now, I want to talk about, instead of talking about new Middle East, formerly Europe, I want to talk about what's happening in the source of the refugees, Egypt. Just look at that picture. So a singer was jailed for inciting debauchery with suggestive banana eating.
Oh, Lord.
Well,
you know, these Muslim men cannot control themselves, and it's not their fault why they rape women. It's, you know, they're too hot. They got to rape them.
It's a banana. She has a lewd music video. She's eating a banana seductively. And in Egypt, which Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama proudly deposed Mubarak and brought in the Muslim Brotherhood, that's Egypt, and you get jailed for eating a banana there. Don't open your mouth too wide, whatever you do.
Yes.
We got some news from England,
Might
but you
find
know,
something in it.
we don't need those people. They've been aside from Nigel Farage, that whole island can just sink. This is something we wanted to get into more, but it's our good news for the day. And Craig, you're going to appreciate this. The Federal Reserve confirms tax cuts are good for the economy, and they are not, will not stand in the way of the Trump boom. So the Federal Reserve is going to stand down and let America be great again.
It's about time. So they've been jacking it up for 100 years.
Over. It's 1913 it started. So congratulations, America. We scared the central bankers into submission. Amazing. So it's been a fun show. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed our fireside chat. We'll be back next week right here on The Honest Media, and have a very Merry Christmas if you don't tune in next week. We'll see you again very soon.